Is the door to Iron Man totally closed? Because I don't believe it is.
Oh.
You guys can go through time now. You can go. You already opened up that door.
Well, let me ask you the question. If I pick the jersey back up and put it on, wouldn't you feel a little bit like, crap?
No.
Oh.
Here's what I think.
All right.
They go through a few semi-lackluster Avengers movies without you.
Nerdrotic.com.
Now, last week I said those abysmal Oscar ratings were a giant wake-up call for Hollywood, and it looks like one major franchise might have noticed. This is rich beyond belief, considering the incredibly woke and preachy Falcon and Winter Soldier, but Marvel, of all companies, has decided to invoke escapism in their latest sizzle reel to get us excited for the Marvel Phase 4. But let's not bury the lead. The biggest news from this sizzle reel was Captain Marvel's demotion. Now, is this Marvel starting to wake up and understand that they're in the business of escapism and not in the business of lecturing us? Well, maybe. But I think things are going to get a little worse before they get better. Remember, this is a giant behemoth company that cannot turn on a dime, but maybe, just maybe, they have recognized something like Brie Larson not being that popular. But they are due for one thing, maybe two, a failure. It's bound to happen sooner or later, and I think it could happen this year. The MCU is the greatest franchise ever created, and if it ends today, it will always remain that. But all good things come to an end, and there's the law of diminishing returns, and then there's get woke, go broke. So let's start with that trailer they released a couple of days ago.
I love being with people. It's the most incredible thing in the world. That world may change and evolve, but the one thing that will never change, we're all part of one big family. That man next to you, he's your brother. That woman over there.
Would you please get your politics out of my comic books? I'm like, what comic books are you reading?
She's your sister.
And if you don't like my politics, don't buy my book. Problem solved.
You gotta be f***ing kidding.
That's right. Hot off the heels of the twisted morality of WandaVision and Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Marvel has rediscovered the word escapism. Now, I don't believe that for a second, considering we heard this from the star of Falcon and the Winter Soldier and the new Captain America, Anthony Mackie. He says, it's been an emotional experience, especially in the time in which we live in now, for Marvel to give me the opportunity as a black man from the South to become Captain America. I think it says a lot, not only about the work that I put into getting to this point, that they would entrust me with that. I don't have a problem with what he just said there, but it's what he says next. But with the way that they're hoping to change the way society looks at itself.
Sheer fucking hubris.
That's not all. We also recently heard the star of Shang-Chi use that magic word, platform.
An interesting few, months where I've had to, embrace all of the aspects of being a Marvel superhero. And yes, it was an incredible experience to shoot, but also, it's given me this incredible platform.
That's the same pretentious crap we heard from the Oscars. And don't think for 1 minute that Marvel, Kevin Feige, and the powers that be in Hollywood didn't hear the intense criticism they received. Speaking of listening to criticism, in this sizzle reel, we got a title card for the next Captain Marvel movie, and it wasn't Captain Marvel 2. It was The Marvels. Now, a lot of people have been rejoicing at Brie Larson's demotion, and I am one of them. But this is going to end up being one step closer to A-Force. Now, if you're a content creator on this platform, you could not be happier. Yes! But if you want to enjoy a good movie, I don't think that's going to happen. Recently, the director of this film nuked her entire Twitter. I wonder why. And if Captain Marvel was such a success, why did you fire the directors to begin with? Yes, it looks like The Marvels is going to include all of the derivative characters from the original Marvel. Captain Marvel, the male version that was turned into Annette Bening. We'll have Monica Rambeau's Photon and Miss Marvel. Just look at that costume.
Oh, no, 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 no.
So while The Marvels looks like a giant double down that's going to lead to a lot of YouTubers putting additions on their homes, you cannot undersell Brie Larson's demotion. It even has the Access Media worried. Captain Marvel 2's new title could sideline Carol Danvers too much. The title for Captain Marvel 2 is officially confirmed as The Marvels, but does this risk sidelining Brie Larson's Carol Danvers in her own movie? Yes, it does, because she isn't a popular character. They tried to rebuild her image. This was the most protected film of all time, and it didn't work. Again, if it was such a success, why fire the directors? Why change the title?
I'm Brie Larson. Oh, God.
So that's one possible flop on the way, and there may be another.
When you love something, you fight for it. We're the ones who changed everything.
Yes, we finally got a look at the Eternals, and that line might be a prophetic statement, because if any movie's going to flop, I think it's going to be this one. This could be Marvel's most woke film, and that is according to Kevin Feige. Feige would specifically address the Eternals' race and gender swapping almost every single character from the comics when Variety's Kate Arthur asked, "The Eternals expands the MCU in terms of representation with its large international cast and its first LGBTQ, where's the plus bigot, superhero. I know some of those things are baked into the Eternals, but how many of those expansive ideas came from Chloe?" He answered, well, the notion of switching up the genders, sexualities, and ethnicities of the characters from the comics was baked in initially, meaning it was woke from the start. That was part of what Nate Moore was really advocating for in moving the Eternals to the top of the list for us to start working on. What exactly the makeup was between when Nate put together his internal discussion document.
This will enable us to tell great stories, inspired by the perfect mix of creative excellence, enhanced by data-driven audience insights.
Which is how we always start on all of our projects. And what she came in and did, I don't recall exactly. I find it hard to believe that Kevin Feige can't recall something exactly about an MCU film, but maybe it's because the directors for these films don't actually direct the entire film. Lucrecia Martel turned down Black Widow after Marvel told her, don't worry about action scenes. Companies are interested in female filmmakers, but they still think action scenes are for male directors. The patent Disney hypocrisy continues. From Bounding into Comics, Kevin Feige says Doctor Strange cut from WandaVision because he's white and male. Apparently, Doctor Strange was supposed to be in WandaVision, but nowadays you can't have a man mentoring a woman. He stated some people might say, oh, it would have been cool to see Doctor Strange, but it would have taken away from Wanda, which I do not argue with. But then he gives his motivation for that. We didn't want the end of the show to be commoditized to go to the next movie. That's rich. That is just rich. Here's the white guy. Let me show you how your power works, he added. It's great to hear Kevin Feige call Doctor Strange just a white guy, but I appreciate his honesty because that is the intersectional feminism that I was talking about. That is the MCU. It's perfectly okay for a woman to mentor a man, which I don't have a problem with, but it is no longer okay ever for a man to mentor a woman. That's going to make for some great storytelling. All from the company that Virtue Signal hires directors. It's okay, little lady. We don't actually need you to direct. We just need your name to make us look good. For the record, race and gender swap all the Eternals you want. I could care less. And I could care less if you do it with most characters as long as the story comes first. But as we heard from Kevin Feige, that's not the case. It's the activism that comes first. A lot of people were excited about that Phase 4 trailer, and hell, the first minute and 47 seconds were great. It reminded us of better days, but they didn't read the comic books. It's 2017 all over again. Marvel is skipping decades of great stories that sold millions of comic books to rush into an era filled with identity politics, activism, failures and canceled books. I hate to break this to you. Spoilers, Falcon Cap had to give back his mantle because it failed. Ironheart was canceled. Miss Marvel was canceled multiple times, and Captain Marvel was canceled more times than I can count. Now, I wouldn't get too excited about Marvel invoking escapism, but it might be a good sign or it might be BS. But they do have limits, and they did sideline Brie Larson in her own movie. Will it lead to her being erased? Time will tell. There is a story they could adapt that could do that. In the meantime, Marvel needs to survive the next year and the next 3 films. A movie about a dead character who deserved a film about 5 years ago, which would have been served better if it was a hard rated R and done like Daredevil Season 1. A movie which should have leaned more into its source material, which was essentially Bruce Lee the comic book, but instead it's another Fast and Furious movie. Then there's The Eternals, which should be a love letter to Kirby, but instead it's a giant virtue signal that should be called The Intersectionals. Now, there are films I'm looking forward to, like Doctor Strange and the Fantastic Four, and hell, I hope I'm wrong about all of this, but I don't think so. Outside of the fact that the Marvel Cinematic Universe is going to have a very rough year because they're not going to have a lot of cinemas to have their universe in, I don't think anyone wants to hear a bunch of millionaires in tights pretending and telling us that we need to reevaluate our lives or change the way we look at ourselves. Tell you what, Hollywood, step away from the mirror just for a second and internalize what I am about to say. Shut up and act. Otherwise, fuck you.
Nerdrotic.com. Please subscribe.
Thanks for watching. If you like what you heard, please like, share, and subscribe. You can also leave a comment below. Follow me on Twitter. I have a Facebook group, and I have a website, nerdrotic.com. I will see you in the next video.